This really just seems to be going from bad to worse. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to hell. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Fume. And of course by my company, Lions Tea Exchange. And guess what? It's almost Valentine's Day, so why not get your lovely lady, or lovely man, the gift of tea? Look, this raspberry elderflower rosé flavor. It's pink and perfect. Put it with an Earl Grey if you want. Also perfect. Put them in my wooden gift boxes. Amazing. Your loved one will cry tears of happiness because of your thoughtfulness. Look at you go. Good job, you. Of course, I will link everything in the description box. Also, side note, because I do handwrite all of the gift notes that go through my tea company, if you guys wanted to do another round of chaotic and psycho Roses Are Red poems like we did last year for Valentine's Day, I can totally do that. Or if you have another idea of something weird that I can do for all of you, let me know. If you do want a Roses Are Red poem, once again, if you place an order, just write in the gift area poem and I will write you a psycho poem. They got really chaotic last year. Now, as most of you probably already know, about a month ago, I covered the news of conservative commentator Brett Cooper leaving her show at the conservative media company, The Daily Wire. And if you watched that video, you know that I expressed some opinions. But it's been a little while now, so I thought that we would check back in and see what's going on. Just have a little look-see at how the channel is doing. Oh, that is unfortunate. Jokes aside, when I last talked about this, I said in no uncertain terms that I am of the opinion that Daily Wire have set Reagan Conrad, the new host of the comment section, up for abject failure, regardless if she did anything to Brett or not. And I really think, at least for now, that I am 100% right. I love being right. Although you don't really have to be an internet scientist to see that this was always going to be a train wreck. Over the last month, the channel has continued to bleed subscribers, and the channel views are way down. Then people discovered Reagan's previous YouTube channel, and this obviously didn't help the accusations that she's been trained to act like Brett. Then Reagan's cousin Riley Conrad made a spicy TikTok video that's since been deleted, blaming Brett for the disdain that her cousin is facing. Then a mysterious Redditor who reportedly works for the Daily Wire outed a bunch of information about the situation, and only a few days ago, because we have to top this off with something so absurd that I don't know why it happened, the Daily Wire's own CEO Jeremy Boring discussed Brett and Reagan in a Q&A video on the company's website. So safe to say, a lot has happened in the last little while, and if I'm being honest, none of this at all has helped. It's only accelerated the show's downward cycle. What can I say? 2025 is off to a raring good start. So to recap for those of you who weren't aware, Brett Cooper is a 20-something-year-old conservative commentator who was the host of the show The Comment Section. In the last few years, the channel has gained millions of subscribers, and Brett grew a really dedicated fan base. But very recently, Brett announced, more or less out of nowhere, that her time at the Daily Wire was over and she was moving on, in this hostage situation video. Once again, Brett, blink if you need some help! In this process, and for whatever reason, Daily Wire decided to replace Brett with her former best friend and producer, Reagan Conrad. Brett has since unfollowed Reagan on socials, we all know what that means, as well as unfollowing Daily Wire's CEO, Jeremy Boring. There are also, and were also, many rumors surrounding this, including that Reagan was taking acting lessons to mimic Brett's style and delivery in taking over the show. Now, for whatever reason, I have developed a bit of a vested interest in this case. Mostly, I think, because watching the comment section right now feels like a little bit of a car crash. I can't speak English. Watching the comment section now feels like a little bit of a car crash, and I have a tendency to just not be able to look away. And it's not because Reagan in and of herself is necessarily a bad host, although on that front it's kind of hard for me to comment because this is not the sort of content that I typically consume, because I'm typically over here watching Mr. Bolin and Lore Lodge because I like to bathe my brain in mysteries. But as a YouTuber who has been around on this platform for a number of years, it is really interesting to me to observe someone else's channel crash and burn this hard this quickly. And like I've probably titled this video, it's like watching somebody speedrun their own destruction. I do have to make note of this too, because I don't want anybody to misunderstand. I'm not talking about this again and making this video to be gleeful about what's happening to this woman and this show and the Daily Wire. I don't really have any emotional investment in this. I'm just interested. I'm like a surgeon cutting into a dead body and being like, that's a heart. So yeah, I just want to preempt that for the people who are like, oh, you're being unkind, possibly, but it's not the primary intention. I'm just interested. What do you want from me? Speaking of things that you all want from me, I know what I want to do for you, and that is tell you about today's sponsor, Fume. It's a new year, which means that it's time for a new you. I don't want to do any self-improvement. Yes, you do. Go to the gym. It's finally time to leave behind all your bad habits, especially the inhaling-related ones. And it's never been easier. Thanks to Fume. Fume is this award-winning flavored air device that is a leading alternative to vaping and other chemical-breathing activities. And unlike a vape, it has no heating components, no batteries, and no vapor, meaning there's no toxic chemicals or even nicotine getting into your body. Instead, Fume uses these nice little flavored cores that you simply pop into your Fume and go. There are a ton of flavor options available, and because they've been rapidly expanding their range, in addition to their flagship Fume, they now have this beautiful Solano Fume, a magnetic base to house your device, and now even these little toppers. These provide a better mouthfeel and are good if you're a person who likes to nibble. So if you too want to break a bad habit in 2025, then click the link in the description, scan the QR code on screen, or go to tryfume.com/Sydney. And of course, when you order a journey pack, don't forget to use code Sydney to get your free Fume topper, an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Whether or not you believe that Reagan backstabbed Brett in all of this, or that she's an innocent victim in all of this, I am very clearly of the opinion that regardless, Daily Wire set this woman up for catastrophic failure. Since taking over the show, the channel has bled hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and it continues to bleed. People, a month on, continue to leave really brutal comments on the channel's videos, saying they want Brett back, that they're unsubscribing. Some of them are leaving honestly pretty mean comments to Reagan herself. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say that a larger portion of people than you realize actually really enjoy watching the downfall of an internet personality. It's sort of comparable to what I imagine the Colosseum used to be like, where everybody packs in and is so amped up about this incoming bloodletting. Humans really haven't changed a whole lot in thousands of years. I will be sad when an asteroid inevitably takes us out, but I think we probably will have earned it. Anyway, I think that's partially what we are seeing in action here, this collective punishment event, this collective punishing event, especially when you consider that people become very defensive of their favorite internet personalities and the people that they show up for regularly. Would you guys defend my honor? I hope you would. I know I always say this isn't a cult, but we could. We could be one. Reagan's video views are also horrific compared to the hundreds of thousands of views that Brett would pull in a single video. When I say horrific, I mean Brett was averaging somewhere in the realm of at least 300,000 views a video. I think the lowest that I saw was 150,000 views, but most pieces of content that she put out were between 500,000 to 1 million views, which is, it's good. You know, it's good for a channel this size that also uploads basically every day. Reagan, on the other hand, is getting anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000 views with a channel of, again, 4 million subscribers. In YouTube land, this is not good. Like I said before, YouTube channels especially are built around personality. There isn't really any room to simply copy and paste someone into a new show and expect it to work the same way as before. So while Daily Wire might own the show, they might own the content, and might have wanted to salvage the idea, which again, I don't blame them for, Well, replacing Brett was just never going to work out, and I don't know if they foresaw that being the case. Shows become synonymous over time with their hosts. I think all of us can admit that, especially when that person has been doing the same show and hosting the same show for literally years. And when fans believe that their favorite host is being slighted or hurt in some way, they will act accordingly towards whoever comes next. I just fundamentally think this was such a weird move for the Daily Wire, and I don't believe for a second that they couldn't foresee this happening. I have been lurking the Brett Cooper subreddit, yes, hello guys, I see you, for the last number of weeks, and I even find it really interesting within Brett's own fan base how people either feel like Reagan fully betrayed her and therefore this downfall is warranted and necessary in a way. But then there's also this other group of people who feel empathy for Reagan and are not 100% on board with what she may or may not have done to Brett. And then they also feel like this downfall is just a really sad net effect of terrible decision-making on the part of the company employing these women. Or used to be employing these women, or used to be employing these women. So imagine all of our shock and surprise when Daily Wire's own CEO decided to weigh in on the situation. During a Q&A session for members, I think, Jeremy Boring made some very interesting claims about the situation, such as the reason Reagan behaves like Brett and has her mannerisms and whatnot is not because she was giving acting lessons, but because they were best friends and Reagan has worked on this show for so long.
So, some of the accusations against Reagan have been really ugly, like that she's impersonating Brett. Well, that's unfair. If Reagan seems a bit like Brett, it's because she's Brett's best friend and one of the writers and the producer of the show. She's worked as much on the show every day on what the show would look like and feel like and sound like as Brett has for these last 2 years. They've done that together. Obviously, they have a lot in common in terms of their delivery because they have helped craft the show together.
Boring also seemingly throws some shade at Brett here, and I might be reading into it, but other people seem to perceive this this way as well, by saying that he never sent Reagan to acting lessons, but he did have to send Brett to various performance-based classes for the various things that she was working on, which actually makes total sense there. I think that's very normal for actors and actresses.
It's actually ironic because I did send Brett to various kinds of lessons as a performer, not acting lessons. Brett's a terrific actress and always, the entire time I've known her, she has been, as will be evident when you see the Pendragon cycle. But I did send her to dancing lessons and singing lessons in preparation for her role as Snow White. I sent her to dialogue coaching sessions.
Where this gets even weirder, at least to me, is Boring stated that it hurts his feelings that Brett hasn't defended Reagan in all of this, claiming that Brett was the person who recommended Reagan in the first place.
And it's hurt my feelings a little bit that Brett hasn't done more to defend her friend Reagan. Brett chose to leave the show. It was her idea, her stated desire to leave the show and to leave the company. She had personally recommended Reagan to me.
Boring finishes off by saying that the attacks on Reagan are basically crafted by outsiders who want the Daily Wire to fail, not because people are genuinely pissed off about what happened here. Oh, it's like that, huh? Ugh. I feel like I look like Elvira today, but the Wish version. Now, a few things here. Number one, and maybe the most importantly, there's nothing wrong with defending your people. I actually completely support that. But that doesn't make this video any less weird or his comments any less weird, and most importantly, it doesn't help this situation. And it only adds to this speed run of self-destruction because it demonstrates that the highest person at this company is also shrugging off the legitimate concerns of viewers, and all that does is erode trust. Not to mention, Boring's video borderlines throwing Brett under the bus, which again, if you're trying to ameliorate a situation, this is not the way to do it. Like, of all the things you could have done or said about this situation, this is what gets added. Maybe I don't get it. Maybe it's because I'm not a CEO of a major company and call myself a god king. I'm just kidding, guys. You don't have to scream at me in the comments. Except I'm not kidding at all. Another sort of weird observation that I'd like to make here that might honestly legitimately be completely off base is that these comments feel to me to be agreed upon ahead of time. Like they're pre-packaged in a way. Why do I say that, you might be asking? Because almost word for word, this is precisely what Riley Conrad, Reagan's alleged cousin, said in her own video about this that she posted to TikTok and then promptly deleted. Why do these people always delete everything? Riley Conrad made the same claims that Reagan acts like Brett because they're best friends, that Brett suggested Reagan as her initial replacement.
Everybody's accusing her of having acting classes. I can tell you, that is how Reagan's always been. That's how she's always spoken. Yes, maybe they have some of the same mannerisms. They've been best friends. Who of you has a best friend and doesn't start kind of talking like them? You usually have the same lingo. So the acting classes rumor, it's just that. It's a rumor. Reagan has never had acting classes. She literally just does speak that way. That's how she is.
If I found the same item in like a TJ Maxx, would I buy it? And typically if the answer is no, then that means that I should not buy it in a Goodwill just because it's thrifted.
This is me kind of going through this a bit blind because I didn't get to try any of this stuff on, so I really don't know what fits.
Suddenly, they are treating our first and second families like American royalty or celebrity status, which for conservatives is shocking and hasn't been seen in a very long while. Here's one of the posts from Oscar de la Renta.
Whether Josh's transition was authentic, and the more we looked into the story and into him, the wilder the entire thing got.
Seeing as we are a cult now, you guys will just believe what I tell you to believe. Listen to your supreme leader. You only really need to look at Reagan's old content to see how she previously behaved, her mannerisms and so on. And at least in my opinion, it wasn't like she acts now. Not to mention, Brett herself told The Spectator that she did not suggest Reagan for this role. So the question is, who do we believe? The person directly involved here, Brett, or do we believe our own eyes, watching Reagan's previous content, or do we believe the company that's in damage control? Do you ever have those moments where you're just thinking, this is all so dumb? I also have to comment on how icky it is that Jeremy Boring and Riley Conrad have both made comments saying that Brett, should say something about this situation and step up and defend Reagan, probably knowing full well that she can't do that. Obviously, I don't know the details of her NDA, but if these other people are suggesting that she should say something, knowing full well that she's unable, it's just asinine. I don't know how else to put it. It's just depressingly on brand for the media industry, so I don't know, do with that information what you will. Also, additional side note, and I'm not super sure if this is relevant, but I don't know, I found it interesting, so I'm going to include it. Apparently, Riley Conrad has been copyright claiming the use of her deleted TikTok about this. A smaller channel called Echoes from Above said that he got a copyright notification from YouTube, and YouTube actually backed him because using this girl's video is considered fair use, which it is, that's true. I also saw a post from my children over at the Brett Cooper subreddit where Reddit even deleted this video due to copyright. Oh no, I don't believe it. Reddit is just so well known for protecting free speech. This copyright situation could be NDA related, I honestly have no idea. Or it could be a coordinated effort to get the original coordinated thoughts off of the internet so that when Jeremy made his video talking about it, it appeared very authentic and original. Well, I drank my conspiracy juice today, did you? Anyway, the last thing that I want to make note of is a post that was made on Reddit that has since been deleted. Why do you people delete everything? It basically called out Jeremy Boring as an egocentric maniac, defended Brett Cooper, and suggested that Reagan had in fact stabbed her in the back. The poster also writes like they presently work for the Daily Wire, but even with that in mind, I still want you to take this with an enormous grain of salt, because this is still basically an anonymous post on a social media platform that's now been deleted. Anyway, the author, who I'm gonna call Mr. Associate so it's less confusing, makes the claim that Brett was backstabbed, that she left not for financial reasons, like a lot of people seem to think, but because of management, and that the Daily Wire has insane non-competes for everyone, not just talent. And for those of you who aren't aware or don't know what that is, a non-compete is basically a legal protection that prevents an employee from working for a competing company or starting their own similar company slash business within a specific time period or location slash area after leaving their existing job. And these are actually really common across many industries. This isn't just a media thing, so I really wouldn't read too much into that. Mr. Associate also paints Jeremy Boring as a bit of an egomaniac who believes that he can make or break people, build their careers, or destroy their careers, which again really lines up with other things that I've been told privately by former staff. And just to be clear, the people who have told me things, these are not people who really have any sort of axe to grind. They're not mad. They're not trying to be spiteful. They just are speaking to the work culture that they experienced while at this particular company. And yes, I am acutely aware that not everybody likes the place that they work at. No workplace is perfect. I'm sure everybody has something to say about, the place that employs them, but I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting when repeated thoughts and ideas come from different people about the same thing over and over and over again. So also, for the people who are steadfast in the belief that for Brett all of this has been about money, I have it on good authority that it isn't, but more than that, in a live stream from early 2023, Brett even said herself that she thought the Daily Wire paid her very generously, and she was surprised by, appreciative of, but didn't expect the pay bump that they gave her when her show started taking off. This live stream is also very long, so I'm not going to try to summarize it, but a couple key points that stood out to me is Brett basically expressing a lot of admiration for the other hosts at the company, as well as saying that she isn't someone who will compromise herself for money. Integrity is very important to her, and honestly, during this live stream, she comes off as really authentic and truthful, so again, I think this video is an interesting watch if you are looking at it after all this drama has unfolded. So, back to my original point. In my opinion, every action that has seemingly been taken and all the drama surrounding this has made the downfall of this show worse and worse. As far as Reagan goes, if you're in the backstabbing camp, then I have to imagine that it's pretty satisfying to watch somebody who's potentially a bad person fail. And that failure is partially because she participated in hurting a friend and colleague just so that she could get ahead. She is currently riding that friend's coattails. She is currently profiting off of something that she didn't build. And that has got to be frustrating for a lot of people. If you fall into the Daily Wire didn't handle this correctly and didn't pursue this correctly camp, then it's also pretty easy to feel bad for Reagan as well. The Daily Wire obviously should have coordinated this a lot better, because if Brett was in fact amicable with everybody on her way out, and if she was cool with her departure, then doing this so abruptly was always going to alarm her audience and roll a bunch of people around to the idea that she wasn't leaving on good terms, which obviously we know to be the case. If Daily Wire were so intent on maintaining the comment section channel, because that's probably what's guiding this, is the fact that it's a 4 million, or used to be closer to 5 million subscriber channel, which is very valuable. If they were so intent on keeping this, then this situation should have been slow-rolled. We should have been able to see Brett and Reagan interacting, warm people up to the idea of a new host, and then Brett could have had a passing the torch episode with the new host or Reagan or whoever, and then said goodbye and been on her merry way, and people probably would have received it a lot better than how they're receiving it now. But that didn't happen, because it couldn't, because the poopies have hit the fan. And knowing the poopies were going to hit the fan and then stay on the fan, or the Roomba, if you guys like that better, that's a lot messier than the fan, then Reagan probably should have been given her own show. Let her start everything and build it from the ground up. Let her build her own audience, not just take over somebody else's and think that you can just copy paste somebody and have it work out. If the woman is blameless, let her start by not having to live in someone else's shadow. But again, if she did some shady stuff, then maybe some of this is just karma. Just karma coming along and punching you in the face. Ultimately, although we are in a cult now, I actually can't tell you which perspective is the right one. You guys have to work that out for yourselves, of course. What I can say though is that I think the writing with this show is kind of on the wall, and a lot of this kind of just feels dead on arrival. And even when this initial anger and all these negative feelings around this situation dissipate from a lot of viewers, this show will just not quite recover. It won't ever be what it was when Brett was at the helm. Everyone with half a brain should have seen this coming, and everyone with a full brain should have handled this a lot better. In the end, I will probably continue to be a very curious onlooker, like many of you, but I don't foresee this getting any better anytime soon. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Fume using the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. When you do and use code Sydney, you will get a free Fume topper when you order a journey pack. I love Fume. They've been a longtime friend of the channel. Go check them out and go show them some love. Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Are you of the opinion that maybe this is a little bit of karmic justice being played out? Are you of the opinion that everybody in this situation is kind of being kicked in the face because there was some really poor planning and decision making around this? Do you think that Reagan is in the wrong, that Brett is in the wrong? What do you make of Jeremy Boring's commentary on this? Was it inappropriate? Was it appropriate? Should he be doing and saying these kinds of things? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. I always like having you along for the full ride. If you are new here and you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of me and more of this kind of content, feel free to subscribe to the channel, as well as leaving this video a like and a comment, because I do read the majority of them and I really like hearing your feedback. If you have a video suggestion, feel free to let me know. I do have a running list of them, but in the interim, I will see you wonderful, pretty, beautiful people in the next video.